Hello. Our Universalist heritage proposes that each person is made of divine goodness, and science offers that we are stardust. Whatever your beliefs, know that you are a gift inherently worthy of love, and we're glad that you're here. In this moment of our shared journey together, may you feel witnessed and honored, because love is the spirit of all souls. Let us now greet our neighbors, both new and returning folks, with our names and pronouns.
It's hymn number 1 in the gray hymnal.
May nothing evil cross his door, and may fortune never pry above these windows, may the door and rain go by. By faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm, till every casual corner chill will keep you warm. Peace shall walk softly through these rooms, touching our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into a shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep me out and hold love in.
Welcome again to all who are with us in the moment and to those who are catching us later on. I'm Austin Mitchell, and my pronouns are he, him. I'm serving as the worship associate for today's service. I'm joined by our co-music director, Liz Elmore, pronoun she, her, and we are your worship team on the chancel today. Pastor Christina Rivero, pronoun she, ella, our sabbatical minister, will also be joining us by a video later. Our senior minister, Reverend Katie Romano Griffin, is on sabbatical and returns to the pulpit September 14th, which will also be our annual in-gathering service. That's also, set your clocks, that's the first Sunday where we will change to 10:30 a.m. for the service start time. We are also pleased to welcome Reverend Dawn Shea Cooley, pronoun she, her. Reverend Cooley is currently serving as the interim minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Indianapolis. She believes that Unitarian Universalists are called to love the hell out of the world, and tries to practice this on a regular basis. She's passionate about helping congregations adapt to the changing cultural religious landscape through her work as an interim minister. We extend a warm and joyful welcome to people of all ages. If you have little ones with you, nursery care is available for your convenience. We also invite everyone to connect with us by filling out a connection card. You can complete the physical card and place it in the offering basket later, or you can fill out a digital connection card by scanning the QR code located just outside the sanctuary. This is a fantastic way to let us know how we can support you or share any interests, comments, or concerns you may have. So, today, after the service, we'll be hosting our second info session for the Realm online platform. The session will be from 11 to noon in the library, and it will cover how to use the directory and create group communications. We also have a blood drive coming up on September 14th, and if you find Jim Scrimeni after the service, he will be helping people get signed up. We also have 2 announcements for next week. One is the All Souls Green Team is facilitating disposal of old and unused medications next Sunday. You can bring over-the-counter or prescription medications to dispose, but make sure that all identifying information is removed from the packaging. There are a few types of items they can't accept, such as needles or inhalers, so check the In the Know newsletter for more details on that. Also next week, this is the big one, the Brendan Park Music Festival is going to be right here at our church. To begin setup for the festival, our parking lot needs to be cleared of cars by noon. So please plan accordingly as you participate in any after-service activities. To attend the festival, there will be parking and shuttles nearby going from the Cathedral High School. And if you would like to help with setup, they are looking for volunteers, and you can find Keith Bevacqua after service to get signed up. As we begin our time together, we acknowledge the land itself and those who have sustained it through the generations. We are upon the unceded land of the Lenape, Miamia, Kaskaskia, Shawnee, and Kickapoo people, who were pushed from their land and whose children were stolen for generations. As we strive to be a community of justice, may we continue to find ways to make real reparations.
Good morning. It is such a joy to be with you all this morning. Thank you, Austin, for the ups and downs of the microphone. It's an auspicious day as well because I don't know if you know, but Reverend Dorian, your membership and communications coordinator, is speaking at UUI today. I don't know if you know that we share Reverend Dorian as a staff member. And so how lovely that I can be here and Dorian can be there, and here we are in partnership always. We gather together this morning in body and in spirit, with courage and with hope. For here in this sacred space, we are home. Take heart, beloveds. This place, this moment is held together by the love and the care that we bring. The world may feel heavy and the way ahead may be uncertain, but we do not travel it alone. We are woven into a fabric of care, a tapestry of belonging that stretches beyond time and beyond space. Both in joy and in struggle, we are held by each other, by those who came before, and by the possibilities yet to unfold. It is good to be together.
The Burroughs family is going to light our chalice for us today.
Good morning. The ritual of lighting our chalice reminds us to continually renew our promise to live into our covenant, to put love into action, and to live out the community of love and justice that we aim to be. Please rise in body or spirit as we share the words printed in our order of service in both Spanish and English. If you are with us online, please let us know in the chat where you are lighting your chalice from. We will begin with the Spanish translation by Reverend Dr. Tania Marquez. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia y el servicio es su ley, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor y arrollarnos unos a otros. Este es nuestro pacto. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. Thank you.
The stream sings it to the river sings it to the sea sings it to the boat that carries you and me. Somos el barco, somos el mar, yo navego en ti, tú navegas en mí. We are the boat, we are the sea. I sail in you, I sail in you, you sail in me. Now the boat, sailing in was built by many hands, and the sea we are sailing on, it touches many sands. Somos el barco, somos el mar, yo navego en ti, tú navegas en mí. We are the boat, we are the sea. I sail in you, I sail in you, you sail in me.
I have a story today that comes from my friend Sarah, and it's a Unitarian Universalist story. Some of you might know it. It goes like this. Once upon a time, 180-ish years ago, there was a Unitarian named Henry David Thoreau. You might have heard of him. He's kind of famous for writing a book called Walden Pond. Can you raise your hand if you've heard of him before? Right, exactly. When Henry was 28 years old, he decided to go out into the woods all by himself. He wanted to try living a simple life. He built a little cabin next to a beautiful pond called Walden. That's the name, where we get the name from. He planted a garden and he tried to grow his own food. He wanted to see what it was like to live off the land. And even though he had to do a lot of work, he still found time to read books and to write. A lot of Unitarian Universalists really love this story. It feels peaceful and quiet and brave. And sometimes us grown-ups even say, "Oh, I wish I could run away to the woods like Henry." And we sigh like this. It's a beautiful story. But as with most fairy tales, there's a lot more to this story. First of all, Henry didn't own the land where he built his cabin. It belonged to a friend of his, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was also a Unitarian. And before that, the land belonged to the Nipmuc and the Massachusetts people who lived there long before either of them did. And Henry's cabin was pretty small, just about 10 feet by 15 feet, about the size of that picture right there. It's about the size of a shed or a really, really tiny home. And even though Henry wanted to live simply, he didn't build the cabin all by himself. Ralph and another friend of him helped him move logs and built the walls, and he also borrowed tools and supplies. Henry grew a lot of his own food, but not all of it. His mom, Cynthia, and his sister, Sophia, brought him things like bread and butter, and they even did his laundry. And back then, laundry was not easy to do. No washers, no dryers, just soap and water and a lot of scrubbing by hand. Now, sometimes Henry went into town and bought things like meat or paper or ink, and he paid for these things by working a little bit here and there, writing for money or helping people to measure the land. Okay, so wait. Why am I telling you this story? Is it to make fun of Henry, to say that his life in the woods where he did it all by himself wasn't even real? No, I'm not telling it to make fun of Henry. Actually, he told us most of this stuff in his book. The problem is a lot of people talk about Henry without actually reading what he actually wrote. Okay, so just because he got some help, does that mean his experiment to live in the woods, does that mean that it wasn't important? No, of course not, right? Henry wanted to see how much he could do on his own, but he knew he couldn't do everything alone. He was curious, and the people who loved him were curious too. They wanted to support him. And honestly, it can be really fun to help someone out with a project that they care a lot about, right? Oh, so of course they wanted to bring him bread and do his laundry. And the reason we still talk about Henry and Walden Pond today is because his experiment still matters. Sometimes people say it's a story about one person going out into the woods all by themselves. But if you look a little closer, it's actually really a story about community. It's a story about helping each other explore big ideas and to do big things. And that's what Unitarian Universalists are like. We're the kind of people who dive into curious projects. And we're also the kind of people who bring each other bread and butter when someone we love is doing something brave. So when we tell the story that way, it's not a fairy tale anymore, but it's still a really, really good story. Thank you.
Please join me in taking a few moments to note that which is currently bringing joy or sorrow to our community. And for this, we will hold a moment of silence to acknowledge the joys and sorrows in our hearts that are yet unnamed. Thank you. And now we will receive a musical offering from Jane Alexander, doing the piece No One Is Alone by Stephen Sondheim.
No one here to guide you. Now you're on your own. Only me beside you. Still you're not alone. No one is alone. Truly, no one is alone. Sometimes people leave you halfway through the wood. Others may deceive you what's good. You decide alone, but no one is alone. People make mistakes. Fathers, mothers, people make mistakes, holding to their own, thinking they're alone. Honor their mistakes, everybody makes one another's terrible mistakes. Witches can be right, giants can be good. You decide what's right, you decide what's good. Just remember, someone is on your side, someone else is not. While you're being your side, maybe you forgot they are not alone. No one is alone. Hard to see the light now. Now let it go. Things will come out right now. We can make it so. Someone is on your side. No one is alone.
I invite you to imagine. Imagine there's a man, it's always a man, who against all odds achieved great success by pulling himself up by his bootstraps. He built an empire from scratch, relied solely on his own brilliance and perseverance, and stood as a shining example of what it means to be truly self-made. Or so the story goes. And the story, oh beloveds, the story is rarely, if ever, true. We hear about figures like Elon Musk and Donald Trump held up by some, as paragons of self-reliance. But Musk, the tech visionary who seemingly appeared out of nowhere to revolutionize space travel and electric cars, benefited from significant family wealth. And Trump, the business mogul who likes to claim he started with just a small loan of $1 million from his father, as if $1 million was small. But in reality, over time, his inheritance and financial support amounted to hundreds of millions. Now, though it might hurt some of us deeply to mention them in the same paragraph, sadly, these stories share something in common with the myth of our own beloved Henry David Thoreau. The myth, often idealized for his time at Walden Pond, living off the land, except that, as we heard just a few minutes ago, he often walked into the nearby town of Concord to visit with family and friends. He frequently joined them for meals at their table. Plus, his mother and sister helped him by doing his laundry and provided food during his stay. And he was living rent-free on land owned by his fellow transcendentalist and friend, the Unitarian minister Ralph Waldo Emerson. Thoreau's experience at Walden was absolutely not one of isolation or self-reliance. Rather, it was a carefully structured experiment supported by a network of family and friends. Beloveds, no one does it alone. Ever, really. And yet, this myth of independence, of radical individuality, continues to persist. At a minimum, this myth ignores the many ways that individuals benefit from collective resources and societal structures, from infrastructure like roads and transportation systems, to education systems, to government programs and subsidies. And then there are the legal and regulatory frameworks that protect business interests, and healthcare, and public health initiatives, and social safety nets, and military and national security that protect trade routes. And oh yeah, let's not forget all those corporate bailouts and financial protections protecting against economic collapse. When we look closely at it, it is clear that success is never a solitary endeavor, but the result of collective effort and shared resources. Radical individualism, this belief that the individual comes first and last and always, and that reliance on others is a sign of weakness, that is the myth. The roots of this myth of radical individualism come from a variety of places. It didn't develop in a vacuum. It is propped up by patriarchy, which valorizes traditionally masculine traits like independence and dominance and competition, while devaluing traditionally feminine traits like interdependence and collaboration and care work. Of course, these gendered traits are themselves completely made up. But this is a mindset that erases feminine wisdom, dismissing as quaint, so quaint, the outdated idea that it takes a village. It also marginalizes the ancestral knowledge, communal practices, and intergenerational resilience of BIPOC cultures around the world, wisdom traditions that have long prioritized care, collective thriving, and relational accountability over individual conquest. This individualist ethos is reinforced by capitalism, which thrives on competition and rewards the few at the expense of many. It tells us to prioritize personal gain over collective well-being, convincing us that our worth is measured by what we can achieve alone, and we will only be safe if we hoard onto it. And we, as Unitarian Universalists, also have to grapple with the reality that a form of radical individualism was preached from our 19th century transcendentalist pulpits and has profoundly influenced our faith since then. Now, don't get me wrong, transcendentalism offered an extremely important counterpoint to the Calvinist view of human nature as inherently sinful, and instead it embraced an optimistic view of humanity. Transcendentalists believed in the inherent goodness and potential of every individual to realize their own divine nature. And part of the ways to do this was through solitude and being in the natural world. And this can be good things, important things. And the Transcendentalist movement, with figures like Emerson and Thoreau at its forefront, also emphasized self-reliance and personal spiritual awakening, which has been twisted to support the idea of radical individuality. Emerson's essay, aptly titled Self-Reliance, famously proclaimed that each individual should trust their own inner voice and avoid conformity, reinforcing the idea that success and personal fulfillment are personal pursuits, not collective ones. Over time, the focus on inner truth and autonomy contributed to a belief system that one should seek fulfillment independently, often disregarding the importance of communal wisdom and collective action. And this was formative to both our national and our Unitarian heritage. But now we find ourselves at a crucial moment as we witness the rise of global fascism, particularly here at home, and increasing economic inequality. A moment when it is necessary to shift from a culture of radical individuality to something that can truly sustain us in these fraught times. Beloveds, that something, I believe, is creating communities of mutual aid. Okay, what do I mean by that? What is a community of mutual aid? Well, mutual aid is more than just helping each other out. It is a commitment to collective care, solidarity, and shared responsibility. It's the understanding that our well-being is all interconnected, that no one thrives alone, and that by pooling our resources, our skills, and our compassion, we can together build reliance in the face of uncertainty. Communities of mutual aid are about creating networks of support that empower participants to meet their own needs out of a deep recognition of our shared humanity and interdependence. It does take a village, not just to raise a child, but to simply exist in today's world. For those of us who have had the privilege of believing that the government was on our side, was of the people, for the people, by the people, we may be waking up to a stark reality that others around the globe have known as their reality for generations. Communities of mutual aid have long been a vital survival strategy for marginalized and oppressed peoples who have long faced systemic barriers to accessing essential resources and support here in the USA. These communities practice mutual aid through endeavors like community-run food programs, informal housing assistance, or grassroots healthcare initiatives. In the face of discrimination and exclusion from mainstream institutions, being a part of a community of mutual aid allows people to reclaim agency. It fosters resilience and builds solidarity, ensuring that no one is left behind. From LGBTQ+ support networks offering shelter and medical aid, to immigrant communities organizing childcare and legal assistance, communities of mutual aid provide a powerful model of care and resistance, grounded on the principle that everyone's well-being is interconnected, interdependent, that we are all a part of the interdependent web. By connecting with our neighbors and organizing within our communities, we build resilience against oppressive systems. And this collective support ensures that together we can withstand and overcome the challenges ahead. Now, perhaps more than ever, we must know each other, support each other, and resist the forces that seek to divide and disempower us. UUA President, the Reverend Sophia Betancourt, in her statement after the November election last year, reminded us that we are a sanctuary people. Beloveds, heresy and radical individualism aren't the only things in our history. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition has also been one of offering solidarity, shelter, and asylum, from the abolitionist movements to helping refugees fleeing Nazi Germany during World War II, through civil rights movements to solidarity with LGBTQ+ communities. We have a tradition of creating spaces of refuge. We know we are strongest when we care for one another in tangible, meaningful ways. But here's the thing. There's a difference between that and mutual aid. Mutual aid means if we don't know what's going on with each other, we can't support one another. Mutual aid also means being open to receiving, not just giving or doing for, but receiving and welcoming. Mutual aid requires knowledge. It requires intimacy with one another. It requires presence. And so often, it requires a vulnerability that we are often uncomfortable with, even in our congregations. Sadly, the way it is now on Sunday mornings at UU congregations all over, many people come to worship, receive inspiration, and then spend coffee hour busily engaging in community work and church business without ever truly connecting to one another, without ever truly asking, "How are you?" Without ever really knowing what's going on in each other's lives, or ways that we might be able to offer support or receive support. It's easy to fall into the trap of being a consumer of spiritual goods, especially when we've been taught that that's all we're allowed to be. To truly become a community of mutual aid, we need to instead be developing deep and intentional relationships, knowing each other's struggles, celebrating with each other's joys, and being present to each other in times of need. Shifting from being a consumer of church to a co-creator of church, to a co-creator of a community of mutual aid, can be a really big challenge. In fact, it presents us with something that is called an adaptive challenge, meaning a complex problem that can't be solved with quick fixes or technical solutions, but instead requires a deep transformation in values, behaviors, and ways of thinking. Unlike technical problems like a broken air conditioner that can be fixed with addressing existing knowledge and existing expertise, adaptive challenges require new learning and experimentation and a shift in mindset. This means adaptive challenges also involve uncertainty, resistance to change, and the need for collective effort and leadership. Part of the adaptive challenge before us now requires a shift in mindset from viewing church as a place we attend to instead viewing church as a community that we cultivate. It means moving beyond that transactional approach, church where we come to receive information or participate in a program, to an interdependent transformational approach, church as where we create a community of mutual support. This adaptive challenge calls us to reimagine what it means to belong, not simply showing up on Sunday morning, but showing up for one another in ways that matter. True mutual aid demands that we create structures that foster ongoing connection and accountability. This could look like establishing robust small group ministries or zip code care circles within a congregation where members commit to regularly check in on each other, to share life updates, and to offer practical and emotional support. It might mean developing a buddy system, pairing newer members with longtime congregants to build relationships that extend beyond Sunday morning. However it happens, and the ideas are limitless, these intentional practices help weave a web of care that strengthens our bonds with one another and nurtures a deep sense of belonging. And this is the hard part. Creating a community of mutual aid requires us to share our vulnerabilities, to ask for help when we need it, to recognize that interdependence is a strength, not a weakness. There's a story of a group that was going to welcome Food Not Bombs into their congregation to help put together meal packages. And they're putting together all these meal packages, and a person says, "I'm really hungry. Do you think they'd mind if I took one?" And the Food Not Bombs people were like, "Of course, take one." That's what these are for. That's what it means to be mutually supportive. This is hard work because it challenges the cultural norms of self-sufficiency and privacy that many of us have been conditioned to embrace. For some of us, it's so hard to ask for help because we've been taught not to. For others, asking for help has been dangerous or ignored. We're so often told to keep our struggles private, to avoid burdening one another, and to project an image of having it all together. Beloveds, no one has it all together. And if you think you do, please see me after the service. Shifting to a culture of mutual aid means stepping outside of our comfort zone and allowing ourselves to be truly seen, whether it's asking for help when we're struggling, sharing our vulnerabilities in trusted spaces, or being willing to receive support as readily as we give it. It means moving away from the idea that strength is measured by how much we can do alone, and instead recognizing that true strength comes from our willingness to lean on each other. And mutual aid isn't just about responding to crises. It's about proactively building relationships of trust and reciprocity. It's about creating a community where no one feels like they have to carry their burdens alone and where joy is amplified through collective celebration. It calls us to ask how we are supporting the most vulnerable among us. How are we showing up for one another outside of these walls outside of Sunday morning? How do we put love at the center every day and everywhere? As we engage in this adaptive challenge, this shift of a mindset from radical individuality towards one of mutual aid, let us remember that interdependence is not just a belief or a value. It is a practice, a way of being in community together, a sacred commitment to one another. By embracing interdependence, we affirm the truth that our strength lies not in standing alone, but in showing up for each other with open hearts and open hands. It is sad when people try and go it alone. May we cultivate communities of mutual aid where vulnerability is met with compassion, where support is freely given and received, and where love truly is at the center of all we do. May it be so. May we make it so together.
This week, we are sharing our offering plate with the Foundation for Farm Workers. This organization helps families in the East Coast Migrant Head Start Project recover from financial emergencies, be free from the fear of family separation, and pursue their educational goals. To contribute, you can give cash or check in the collection plate, or scan the QR code outside the sanctuary, or the QR code which will appear on the screen shortly. When giving online or by check, please specify if it is for a pledge or for Share the Plate. Thank you for your generosity in supporting the mission of All Souls, and for your continued love for one another and for this world. The morning offering may now be given and gratefully received.
Together we stand with our voices lifted. Together we sing as one choir. Together we stand with our hearts united, our flames ignited, our lives bright to inspire.
We can always stand when we sing together. We can always stand up strong. When we join our hands, we can vision higher, ignite a fire that burns brightly to inspire. All are welcome here. All are welcome here. All are welcome here. Our love is bright to inspire.
Come, won't you come and sing with us? Won't you come and sing with us? Won't you come hear life bright to inspire?
Together we stand with our voices lifted. Together we sing as one choir. Together we stand with our hearts united, our flames ignited, our lives bright to inspire. Together we stand with our voices lifted. Together we stand with one choir. Together we stand with our hearts together, and flames ignited, our lives bright to inspire.
Our closing words today come to us from Maureen Killeran, and I should note that Maureen wrote these words back in March of 2017, and unfortunately they're as apt today as they were then. It is entitled, "These Words Are What We Need." This prayer is for all, For all who are fearful about the economy, about the fate of our country, health care for yourself or for your children. For all whose hearts ache at the injustices being done to others in our name. For all who fear for the survival of our planet. For all who fear whether they will be allowed to enter or leave or to remain. We make this prayer for all who are dealing daily with failing health, difficult diagnoses, challenging treatments, or healthcare routines. For all who struggle with difficulties at school or at work. For all who are facing hard decisions. For all who are living in challenging relationship. We make this prayer for ourselves, for all the fears and concerns, the joys and celebrations. We make this prayer for our children, for their future, and for every blooming possibilities of spring. We make this prayer to hold in our hearts all the precious blessings of our lives. We make this prayer not because we expect it will make the world turn or change. We make this prayer to remind ourselves of who we are, of what life is, and how important love can be. We make this prayer because these words are what we need. Go in peace, fight for love, find joy.
Lift my voice, let it be in song, a defiant note in the face of wrong. I won't stand alone, we'll stand side by side, 'cause we know that love is always justified. When they try to divide us, it will only unite us. I lift my voice. When I lift my voice, let it be for good. Let me care as much as I know I should. I won't stand alone, we'll stand side by side, 'cause we know that love is always justified. When they try to divide us, it will only unite us. I lift my voice. When they try to divide us, it will only